Here is a Russian tank filled with infantry sitting on the armor, heading for an assault. Their task is clear: to jump into the Ukrainian positions and engage in combat to occupy new territory. The task of the Ukrainians is to prevent the Russian military from fulfilling their task and stop the pressure. Ukrainian drone strikes a tank and it stops. The Russians who were sitting on top of the armor start to run away. One of the soldiers even lost his assault rifle out of fear. Now, Ukrainian drone pilots only have to finish off the tank, otherwise the Russians will return for it and continue to use it. The drone operator aims directly at the hatch and the tank catches fire. The fire fills the tank more and more, and then it burns down completely. The target is destroyed. The next target for the Ukrainian drones was the 2C9 Nona self-propelled artillery system. It is a toxically fast firing system. The drone operator takes aim and strikes. One of the crew members leaves the vehicle before the drone strikes. The Russian infantrymen begin to abandon the self-propelled artillery unit and flee into the forest. Meanwhile, the Nona continues to burn and then explodes. From the explosion, the turret flying in an unknown direction, and the artillery unit was left only as scrap metal. It's an ordinary armored personnel carrier, but as it turned out, it was completely filled with a combat kit. The drone pilot strikes, but not quite accurately. A hit to the armor, but it did not affect the vehicle. Another drone flies to re-attack the target. And a 3-point shot. Now the armored personnel carrier is on fire, and then its combat kit explodes. This Russian tank is well camouflaged, but there is no hiding from Magyar pilots. A Ukrainian drone pilot is already nearby and ready to strike the tank. Some white rags flew from the tank. Another drone operator is flying to finally destroy the tank and record the first strike. The tank has already heated up well and turned into molten metal. And here is another camouflage tank, even better than the previous one. The drone operator will have to fly between the bushes, but that's not a problem. A drone strikes and the tank explodes. The drone flew straight into the tank's hatch. During further reconnaissance with another drone, everything will be visible. Now it's clearly visible how fire is raging inside the tank. This drone will finish the job and destroy the tank completely. He disguised himself, but still burned out on his job. Here is the infamous road of death. The Russians tried to tow a damaged armored personnel carrier back to their base with a tractor, but Ukrainian drone operators don't approve of such actions. That's why another kamikaze drone strikes the armored personnel carrier. The tractor had already been attacked earlier. The drone operators waited for the rainy weather to pass and delivered the final strike. The drone flew into the hatch, and now it's just a matter of waiting for the fire to completely destroy the armored vehicle. The armored personnel carrier has exploded, and from the blast, it was clear that it was fully loaded with ammunition. And then, a Russian armored fighting vehicle and an infantry fighting vehicle explode on mines. The armored vehicles are equipped with an electronic warfare system, and they must be destroyed. Allied units begin to attack the infantry fighting vehicle. And then, with a final blow, the pilot of the Magyar Birds destroys the armored vehicle. After 3 hits, the infantry fighting vehicle burns down. Then it's time to attack another armored vehicle. The kamikaze drone operator aims at the rear of the vehicle and strikes. For this armored vehicle, only 1 strike was enough to completely burn it down. Here's another combat vehicle that was abandoned by Russians during a Ukrainian drone strike. The operator of the kamikaze drone takes aim and ignites the abandoned combat vehicle. And now it is completely burning down. And here, the Russians are towing another cannon with a truck. They have no idea that a reconnaissance drone is currently watching them. Meanwhile, the Russians have already found an ambush spot, which they consider a good position for the cannon, along with a full truck of ammunition and shells for it. Most likely, they were planning to settle there for a long time. But Ukrainian drone operators think otherwise. A kamikaze drone is already on its way to destroy its target. The Russians are slowly starting to hear the sound of the approaching drone and begin firing back with rifles. Sometimes they even manage to hit it, forcing the Ukrainian operators to try again. But not this time. The drone successfully reaches the target and hits the cannon. The Russians who tried to shoot down the drone are now scattering in different directions, and the spot where the ambush was supposed to be is now engulfed in flames. Now both the cannon and the truck loaded with ammunition have been completely burned to ashes. And here is a Russian tank that failed to make it through the road of death. Now we can see a Ukrainian thermite drone in action. It lands on the tank and burns through its armor in just 7 to 9 seconds. The view from the observer drone shows the action. The ignition temperature of thermite ranges from 2,300 to 2,700 degrees Celsius. And this is what the tank looks like after a few minutes of burning. Another Russian tank, this time well camouflaged. However, its camouflage is not a problem for Ukrainian pilots. A kamikaze drone is on its way to destroy it. The picture is quite bad due to the electronic warfare system, but this is not a problem for the pilot, and he successfully carries out the attack. The Russians tried once again to shoot down the drone, but once again they failed. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian operators launch another drone to check the accuracy of the strike and, if necessary, deliver the final blow. Now it's clear that the tank won't be going anywhere. It's burning from the inside, and this will ultimately destroy it. That same night, a night bomber, or as Ukrainian pilots call it, the Night Doctor, destroyed several more tanks. The drone operator first drops one bomb directly on the target. After the first bomb, another one immediately follows. And then, the third one. The reconnaissance confirms that the target has been successfully neutralized. By morning, it's clearly visible that the tank won't be going anywhere. Here, 2 Russian armored personnel carriers with infantry are heading towards an assault, and they need to be stopped immediately. The operator locks onto the target and halts the vehicles. This is also visible from another Allied reconnaissance drone. A second sortie of the kamikaze drone, and it hits the target directly. After the strike, the Allied unit of the Magyar Birds, using the Night Doctor, also drops a bomb on the armored vehicle. And after that, the armored vehicle will no longer be able to attack Ukrainian territory. The drone pilot is flying to destroy another target, while an Allied drone bomber flies overhead. Another armored personnel carrier also catches fire. Then, the Night Doctor drops a bomb on it and destroys it. Here's another interesting situation. 2 Russian vehicles, specifically a buggy and a Bukhanka, are heading down the road of death, bypassing the armored vehicle, the destruction of which I showed earlier in another episode. The Russians are heading toward a landing point. A kamikaze drone has been launched to intercept them. The image is noisy, indicating that Russian electronic warfare systems are active. A good hit, but the buggy still needs to be destroyed. The Russians have activated their electronic warfare systems, but it's not a problem. The drone operator knows their job well. 2 sorties, 2 targets destroyed. The job was done professionally. Here, another infantry fighting vehicle was stopped during an assault. An interesting situation also occurred with it. Then the Ukrainian operator of the kamikaze drone strikes, and the infantry fighting vehicle starts firing in the air. The crew of the infantry fighting vehicle fired their entire ammunition load into the air in a desperate attempt. And here is the same video about the armored personnel carrier. The Russians tried to tow a damaged armored personnel carrier back to their base with a tractor, but Ukrainian drone operators don't approve of such actions. That's why another kamikaze drone strikes the armored personnel carrier. The tractor had already been attacked earlier. The drone operators waited for the rainy weather to pass and delivered the final strike. The drone flew into the hatch, and now it's just a matter of waiting for the fire to completely destroy the armored vehicle. The armored personnel carrier has exploded, and from the blast, it was clear that it was fully loaded with ammunition. Here, the drone operator is already aiming at the Russian cannon. As we can see, the hunt is conducted at night. The Ukrainian military does not care when to work. The main thing is to destroy enemy targets. Now, from another drone, a hole in the barrel of the cannon is visible, which means it's no longer fit for combat missions. Here's another gun, camouflaged, and even a wheel is hanging on the barrel. Further reconnaissance with another drone shows how the Russians have thrown another wheel onto the barrel, which means they are nearby but afraid to come out. A hole in the barrel is visible, and the gun will no longer be able to fire. Another gun, and yet another hole in the barrel. Further reconnaissance with another drone confirms the successful hit. A small surprise awaits the Russian artillerymen. Here, a Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilot is already on the way to attack a camouflaged Russian tank. The tank's armor is strong, and it has an electronic warfare system on its roof. Therefore, several drones are needed to destroy it. Here comes the second kamikaze drone to attack the tank. An explosion is visible, but the tank remains undestroyed. Therefore, it was decided not to waste additional kamikaze drones, but to eliminate it using a night bomber drone, or as Ukrainian soldiers call it, the Night Doctor. First, a conventional bomb was dropped, and then a thermite incendiary bomb. Here, we can clearly see that the tank caught fire and is completely burning. Here, a Russian tank is on its way to assault, and a Ukrainian kamikaze drone is sent to intercept it. The drone operator strikes, and the tank begins to slow down. A reconnaissance drone captures the emergency evacuation of the tank crew after it was damaged. However, to ensure its complete destruction, another kamikaze drone was sent to the target. The drone pilot delivers a strike and the tank starts smoking but does not catch fire. Therefore, a third kamikaze drone was deployed, which ultimately destroyed the tank. To completely destroy this tank, it took 3 drones. Now it has become a non-operational unit. Another Russian assault on an infantry fighting vehicle. A Russian soldier's head is visible from the hatch. An infantry fighting vehicle full of troops passes through the tree line and heads to deploy the infantry. A Ukrainian kamikaze drone pursues them and then strikes. A Russian infantryman on the fighting vehicle felt unwell. However, the armored vehicle did not stop and continued moving toward its destination. Here we see the fighting vehicle approaching the landing point. But no one disembarks. The Russian infantryman decided against going on the assault, so the armored vehicle turns around and drives back. When the fighting vehicle abruptly started moving, a Russian soldier on the roof of the armor fell off, but no one waited for him. The Russian fighting vehicle begins to flee without deploying the infantry. It drives out on the same route it entered. Another Ukrainian kamikaze drone takes off to eliminate it. It strikes the fighting vehicle. The vehicle doesn't stop, but it is already becoming hot inside. One of the crew members decides to abandon the armored vehicle before it bursts into flames. Then, the armored vehicle loses control, stops, and the infantry along with the crew abandon it, fleeing into the tree line. A third kamikaze drone is heading there to destroy the armored vehicle, as otherwise, the Russians might tow it back and repair it. The impact causes the fighting vehicle to catch fire, marking its final destruction. Here, 2 more armored transporters are heading toward the assault on Ukrainian positions. Ukrainian drone pilots have also begun targeting them with kamikaze drones. The first armored transporter was damaged. It also came under fire from Ukrainian artillery. The second armored personnel carrier has caught up with the first, but doesn't seem to be too concerned about saving anyone. It goes around it and continues to move forward. Of course, this armored personnel carrier will also be attacked by Ukrainian troops. Here, a kamikaze drone is aimed at destroying an armored personnel carrier. A reconnaissance drone shows that the armored personnel carrier has already caught fire and no additional drones are needed to destroy it. Now the kamikaze drones are flying to destroy the first armored personnel carrier. The drone hit an armored personnel carrier, but it was not enough, so a third kamikaze drone took off. Again, the drone pilot attacks the armored personnel carrier, but to no avail. One more attempt is needed. Well, drone operators will attack the armored vehicles until they are destroyed. Here is a drone operator carefully flying into the middle of an armored personnel carrier, and this explosion will be the last. This is a well-known road where Russians often hit Ukrainian mines. This armored personnel carrier was no exception. Here it stands damaged, blown up by a mine. The Russians escaped from it, but the vehicle itself must also be destroyed so that no one else will use it. The drone pilot strikes, and the armored personnel carrier explodes. One mine and one kamikaze drone strike were enough for it to be destroyed. We can also see the previously destroyed targets that were also blown up by mines. Another Russian armored transporter full of infantry is heading toward an assault. As it drives through the tree line, it detonates on a remotely planted mine set by a drone. Then, the kamikaze drone operator carefully strikes directly at the hatch of the armored vehicle. The kamikaze drone's deep dive ignites the armored transporter and sets it on fire, completely burning it. By evening, it is still burning, and then it detonates. Here, a reconnaissance drone spots the Russian infantry disembarking. A kamikaze drone has already taken off and is ready to strike the target. One strike from a kamikaze drone was enough to make this Russian armored transporter explode and be destroyed. The armored vehicle was turned into a crushed tin can. Here, a kamikaze drone is flying to attack an enemy truck. First one, then the next. In the footage, it's clear that a Russian armored KAMAZ has caught fire and will no longer be able to move. Here, a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone tracks the movement of Russian soldiers on buggies who are loading previously disabled motorcycle crews. First they load one and then the other. They feel at home, casually riding around, unaware that they are being observed, and a precise strike is already being prepared. With this strike, Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilots destroy both the buggy and the retrieved motorcycles. Here, Russian soldiers are loading something onto a vehicle from the forest. They are likely changing their position. A reconnaissance drone is slowly tracking them from above. For some reason, the Russian soldier decided to stop in the tunnel under the railway, thereby blocking the traffic. Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilots took advantage of this and delivered a precise strike. By destroying the vehicle, they blocked the movement for the Russians, and to clear the way, heavy armored equipment will have to be used. Here's the drone strike, and the vehicle successfully catches fire. Moreover, the ill-advised stop has blocked movement for the light Russian vehicle logistics. And here are some more targets attacked by Ukrainian kamikaze drones. And here that a reconnaissance drone detects an ambush of an enemy tank firing at Ukrainian positions. Kamikaze drone pilots are on the way and ready to strike back. The drone pilot delivers a precise strike, and the tank first catches fire and then explodes. Before its final destruction, it manages to fire one last shot. In slow motion, it looks very impressive. It is clear that the tank was fully loaded with ammunition. But this is not the end. A Russian soldier jumps out of the tank and starts running toward the tree line, simultaneously removing his burning gear. He is extremely hot, despite the fact that it is quite a cold time of year. Here he is running in a purely Soviet uniform, trying to hide in a tree line. But even there, it's not so easy. Ukrainian sappers had previously mined the area. And this is what the tank looks like now, nothing but worthless, scorching scrap metal. And here is another Russian tank with a trawl in front of it, clearing mines dropped remotely from drones. Here we can see that the first mine explodes under the trawl and the other under the tank. After the explosion, the tank stops, and the pilots of the kamikaze drones are already preparing for a combat mission. From the reconnaissance drone, it is visible that the tank is equipped with electronic warfare systems, but the pilots of Magyar Birds know how to bypass them. The drone pilot strikes, but the tank's armor holds. Another attempt is needed. Another kamikaze drone hits the target, leading to the tank's complete destruction. We can clearly see the fire engulfing the tank, consuming it entirely. Even the additional protection of the turtle tank did not save it from complete destruction. And here is a Russian artillery gun. All it takes is a hole in the barrel, and it will no longer be able to fire. Even if the Russians try to shoot with it, it will simply explode into pieces. This is exactly what Ukrainian kamikaze drone operators are working on. After the drone hits the gun, another drone always comes to make sure the shot was successful. Another Russian artillery gun. This one is better camouflaged, but it was still detected. After the strike, another drone is used to confirm the presence of a hole. Here, we can see a nice crack. and one more artillery gun that needs to be neutralized. And here is a Russian truck. At night, it exploded on a remotely placed mine and now stands abandoned. Russian soldiers are somewhere nearby, in the wood. As we can see, it was towing an artillery gun. Now the task of Ukrainian drone pilots is to neutralize the target. The first hit had no effect, so a second strike is needed. Another drone pilot took aim and hit the truck's cargo bed, which was fully loaded with ammunition. As a result, the truck exploded. Below, we see destroyed Russian armored vehicles on the road of death. And this is all that was left after the Russian truck. Here's another Russian combat vehicle that was hit by a mine and is now abandoned. It needs to be destroyed so that the Russians cannot tow it away and repair it. The hit is clearly visible. Later, intelligence confirmed that the combat vehicle was destroyed and burned. Another target for Ukrainian pilots. Russians in a pickup truck are changing their location, but a drone pilot spotted them and started pursuit. One of the Russians tried to shoot down the drone with a rifle, but his attempt was unsuccessful. And here's a Russian Bukhanka carrying ammunition. It was also attacked by a Ukrainian kamikaze drone. A powerful explosion is visible, but that's not the end of it. Here it burns intensely, and then Russian munitions detonate. Another Russian tank was stopped by a mine. Here it is, parked, heavily armored with additional protection. There is active protection on top, but it did not save it. The drone operator makes a targeted strike, but the first hit does not penetrate the armor. So another kamikaze drone takes off and strikes the tank. Now this tank will definitely not be able to drive. The tank is now completely engulfed in flames and ready to explode. The detonation was successful. Another truck with ammunition and an artillery gun, a complete gentleman's set. A kamikaze drone pilot takes off and hits the target. The truck slowly catches fire. It's necessary to wait for the flames to do their work and burn it completely. Here, the fire is slowly doing its work. This is a Russian armored personnel carrier full of infantry heading for an assault. The drone operator takes aim and strikes. The armored carrier slows down but still reaches the drop-off point for the infantry. The Russian infantry disembarks and takes positions in the forest. Later, the night doctor will pay them a visit. For now, the drone pilot is about to destroy this armored personnel carrier. It hits, and the armored personnel carrier is destroyed. Here, reconnaissance shows that the armored personnel carrier is on fire. It had an electronic warfare system on the roof, but it couldn't protect it from the drone strike. Another tank has been caught on the same route where Russian armored personnel carriers were previously destroyed, as you may have seen in earlier videos. For those who missed it, here's a quick recap. This brand new armored personnel carrier also hit a mine and was abandoned by the Russians. The kamikaze drone operator is already in a hurry to destroy it. The first hit was ineffective, so another drone is sent for the final destruction. Another Russian armored personnel carrier is transporting infantry for an assault, but it's intercepted by Ukrainian drone operators, who begin their attack. The armored personnel carrier activated smoke screens and its electronic warfare systems, but it was all for nothing. Another kamikaze drone flies to finally destroy the target. The assault was successfully repelled, the enemy equipment is destroyed, and now the Night Doctor will be searching for the Russian infantry. I'd also like to remind you that this was the Magyar Birds Brigade. I'll leave a link to support them in the description below the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. This material was prepared by Hustler. See you soon.